There is no heaven, there is no hell. There is only this world and its dark reflection. And we do not know in which of the two worlds we are.
Live from New York, it is the Coffee Club with your two bizarre hosts of the night. First, we've got Felix. Then we've got our co-host, the Dr. Mark.
Dr. Mark, who is recouping from pneumonia.
I give it to you, Dr. Mark, that you are so loyal to the show that even with your illnesses, you come right on and sound so perky.
Hey, listen, they say in show business, the show must go on. I just can't leave you hanging, you know?
Oh, you'd leave me hanging is right. I can't do this show.
No, I wouldn't.
I'm just saying
I wouldn't leave you hanging.
Right, thank you. I'm just saying.
Oh, you say you couldn't do it? Yes. Well, it sounds like a good way to begin a program about bizarre news and strange stories. Yeah. I must give you credit, Felix. I really do. I happen to love that guy with the strange voice who says there is no heaven, there is no hell. I have a feeling he was listening to our show on he might have been one of the few listening to our show on reincarnation and is there life after death, you know?
It's funny. That was one of our least popular shows, and I thought that would be one of our
And we
most
had the
popular.
most fun with it. We had the most fun with that one.
Yeah, it was a good show.
Oh, one of them anyway.
So if anybody...
It really was.
I was going to say, if anybody is interested, you can go back, look it up, and then listen to it. It's a really good show. And as a reminder, we like phone calls. We like to hear from people. Our phone number is 646-595-3275. And Mark...
And Felix, would you believe that I actually dialed the wrong number the first time?
Did you dial the old number?
No, I dialed... the first numbers were right, but I dialed 7532 instead of 3275, which I quickly realized was wrong, and I hung up before I get accused of making a phony phone call.
You know, this show is obviously, as we always talk about, we talk about everything. And today we said we're going to talk about bizarre news, we're going to talk politics and religion. I heard that you have a story that's actually religious and bizarre at the same time.
I was kind of hoping to save that for the end, but I guess, or maybe we can wait until maybe somebody. Wait till somebody call. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I attended Brooklyn Tech. I was a freshman in 1962, and we used to take the A train, along with the song, take the A train and get off at Lafayette Street. And we had to walk about 4 blocks to get to Brooklyn Tech. And in the process, used to pass a bodega that used to have the National Enquirer. It's like the Star newspaper, has all those crazy headlines in it. Well, this has to be, and I still believe, the most bizarre headline I have ever seen. Man cuts off head and lives. You want to tell me how you could do that?
I have no idea.
I mean, I know Frankenstein tried reanimation. Of course, it's all literature. But still, I mean, if you can reanimate a person, but I've never heard of, they say that, my dad was in the live chicken poultry line for a while. And gross as this may sound, the chickens were live, and people would come in and order their chicken, and they would slaughter it right there.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, you had to cut off the head. And the body was still going through jerks and motions, after the head was severed. Yeah. And I heard that, back in days of yore in France when they used the guillotine, that also was quite common, that the body, until the body realizes that it's dead, it goes through some sort of contortions. I don't know, some sort of movement.
You heard the expression, right? Like a chicken running around without a head.
A chicken without a head, exactly. But anyway, that was. I never could believe that story. Man cuts off head and lives.
Did you read about it?
That's like. No, we were just going. We didn't have much time to walk the 4 blocks to get to school. So the bottom line is, I just saw the headline and I couldn't believe it. But it's like the headline you see if you go to any mall and they print up any newspaper you want, man bites dog or something like that,
Yeah.
As opposed to dog bites man.
We should have Googled it. Man
we should have.
Man cuts off head and lives to tell and lives.
I don't even think Houdini was that skilled.
No, he wasn't that
magician.
Stupid. He wasn't that stupid.
No, that's true. Well, we never said anything about his head. Cutting off somebody else's head, maybe. But I'd like to start, Felix, with some things I found in the weird stories section. Where are they now? The possibility of some old-time actors that maybe the younger people wouldn't know, but people our age would certainly remember. They always seem to have one of these things on Facebook, where are they now?
All right, listen,
and how you can reach them.
I just found the article. Man cuts off head and lives.
You did find it?
Yeah, he cut off his wife's head and he still lived.
That certainly is a bizarre story. Well, that's like the old, what is it, Rodney Dangerfield line or something about, he's not going to buy his mother-in-law present for Christmas this year because she never used the gift that he got her last year. And what did he get her last year? He bought her a cemetery plot, So he said, I'm not going to get her anything this year.
Well, you see.
But anyway, do you remember Jay North?
Sure.
Dennis the Menace?
Yep.
Well, Jay North obviously played Dennis the Menace.
Well, listen, let's go ahead and add another caller in.
Oh, is somebody calling already?
Yeah, good evening and welcome to the show. Can you hear me there?
I hear you. It's your usual culprit, Dan.
Oh, Dr. Dan, Dapper Dan.
Well, I like to be called Dr. Dan, but I'm only doctor of experience. I'm a doctor of
Dan the Man. Dan the Man.
Dan the Man.
Dapper Dan.
Hold on, let me try this. I'm sorry, guys. Let me try to find the volume on my...
Okay.
Hold on a second.
That does sound good. Dapper Dan. That's what we'll call Dapper Dan.
Yeah.
That's going to be his nickname. We'll have to tell him.
I'm trying to find a volume I can hear you guys. I mean, bizarre stories. I just, before I even called you guys, before even listening, this athlete, Pistorius, I don't understand the people at all. I don't.
Well, they haven't come to a decision, have they, yet in the trial?
No, I know, but I'm hearing the stories. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. He's guilty as sin. But that's my judgment, but that's just what I'm hearing from the news media. That's just nuts.
Hey, listen, you're talking about, how about talking about the United States of America, where a white man can't get convicted down in Florida for killing a black man, even though we all know it's murder, okay?
Right.
But don't. I don't want to go down that road.
No, I wouldn't.
But you're right about that. I mean, even if he thought it was an intruder, don't you yell out something first, or say something, or call out your girlfriend if she's not there yet. Call out her name, and hope that she will answer you. Obviously, Well, I don't know.
I think what we're all missing, Nora, is it's starting to leak out that someone cheated on somebody, and someone, they cheated on each other, and just she's beautiful. I mean, she's beautiful. I couldn't shoot her. I would take her to bed with me. I wouldn't shoot her.
You know something? You never know, and this is really true, because we've seen stories like this on TV and read them in the papers. You see stories where one spouse wants to get rid of another spouse, and you take a look at the other person, and for all intents and purposes, they look gorgeous. I mean, anything physically that you could want in a mate, that's the person. But, no one knows what goes on behind the closed doors, in their home, in their bedroom. I mean, who's to say why people do what they do? There really is no rhyme or reason.
No, I might say the expression wrong. And other guys, I mean, like I see her, I'm like, how would you touch her? I mean, Jesus Christmas. But some guy is sick of her.
Well, think about what people say about flea markets of all things. One's man's junk is another man's treasure.
That's maybe the expression I was thinking of. Maybe that's what I was thinking of. Right.
I mean, you really don't know. I mean, then again, we all know looks can be deceiving. Okay, the person can look like Venus de Milo or one of the Greek gods. Okay, but you don't know how they are personality-wise, how they treated each other, the kind of relationship they had. Who knows?
I know. It just sent me a fascinating trial because he became so popular and powerful. Meaning powerful, just popularity-wise.
It's true.
And I mean, I don't.
Yesterday, what was it? Some woman was interviewed. She made a trip to, Sydney, so her son, who was also lost his legs in an accident, could meet him. To be inspired by him. Right. I mean, the guy. It could be an inspiration to so many people.
Right. He inspired Mark. He's inspired a lot of people, so everyone's having a hard time, especially the youth, inspired, a lot of people. And for this to come out, people are like it's like a hard pill to swallow.
Well, Dapper Dan, think about this. How many times is somebody arrested for killing a spouse or killing somebody, and they interview the neighbors and they say, he was always such a nice guy.
Mark,
we never saw this coming, or the guy turns out to be a pedophile, God forbid, and they say, we didn't know anything about this. You just don't know what goes on in somebody else's house.
I know. Look, I know. Look, and I think the three of us are pretty much normal. But some people are not that normal.
Oh, I don't know. I've been in Felix's house a few times.
I feel bad for you.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Felix, talk to us. I'm sorry.
Well, listen, Mark.
I'm hogging the mic again.
I want to just make one comment. What you said about the black man, white man not being convicted of killing a black man. Well, it goes the other way around. Black man can't be convicted of killing a white man. And who's that? Simpson.
Oh, O.J. Yeah, but we were talking about Florida. I was talking primarily in Florida.
Oh, right.
That's California. And let's face it, as far as O.J. goes, there was so much botched surgery by that detective with the glove and everything. But it just goes to show you how stupid the man is. And I'm talking now about O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, Cochran.
He beat a murder rap, okay? The world knew he was guilty. I don't care what color you were. Everybody knew he was guilty. But for the families of his ex-wife and that young man who knew her, who was the waiter, there's no justice, and there never will be any justice. But O.J. is so stupid to do the things that he did after that and getting himself in trouble with the law. Right now, people would say, well, he wouldn't have gotten the death penalty, but the bottom line is justice is being served because so far he's behind bars and he probably will never get out of jail unless he breaks out, okay?
He'll have a football in his hand, Mark, if he breaks out.
That's right. He'll pose like the Heisman Trophy. Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, the one that he supposedly sold but said it was stolen, remember?
Yes.
That he was trying to get back, know.
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
This is a little quiz question for you.
Today I still have stuff to discuss.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
Of course. We're going back and forth. Today is March 7th. It's some kind of a national day. Do you know what today is?
The day before Mildred Kinnickson was born.
Nope. Today is National...
My mom.
Today is National Cereal Day.
And you know what I had for breakfast? I actually made myself pancakes. Usually I do have cereal. I blew it.
Mark, you ever been to Harold's before?
Yes. I've been there with our esteemed host. I can't wait to go back.
That place is so good. I can't wait to go back. I wanted to rub it in, that's all.
That's
see
okay.
If we can contact Dr.
I'll get you back. I'll start talking about my vasectomy. But
no. All right. I'll take it back. Take it back.
No, you know what got me about Harold's, Dan? The first time I went there, and I saw the size of those sandwiches and the size of the portions, I could not believe that a human being, or even 5 human beings, could eat that much food. Okay.
You know what? Besides the food being so good, it's cheaper and healthier for. I don't know about healthier. I take that back. It's cheaper than McDonald's.
Yeah, when you figure out how much you're paying for a quarter pounder, or one of those fancy burgers or chicken sandwiches, and then you break it down and see what you're getting at Harold's. And usually, what you're doing is you're splitting it with a few people anyway. Not to mention that if there are leftovers and you divide it up equally, everybody gets at least one more meal when they go home for the next day.
I think it's $22 for the pastrami and corned beef combo if you want to do that. But you know what? $20, okay. Everyone's like, oh my God. But you know what? It feeds a family. It can feed a family of 4.
You know, when Felix and I went, we always say we're going to try something different, but we always wind up getting the same thing. We get the corned beef and pastrami. One time, we split one of those 13-inch hot dogs, and we got
French fries.
What was it? Cheese fries, wasn't it, Felix? Yeah. I think the cheese fries are so messy, but it's so good. It just sits in your stomach.
I spoke to Felix a while ago about this. I'm afraid, obviously you only go once every other month, and I don't know what else to get but the pastrami and the corned beef. I'm afraid to try anything else.
Well, I tell you, they have their potato latkes are tremendous. Those big round potato pancakes they are.
They're gigantic.
They look they serve it either with sour cream or applesauce. You could put sugar on it if you want, but that's how most people tend to eat them. I've seen the corned beef and the brisket looks delicious. Brisket, depends upon the gravy. The gravy, I like salt, but, sometimes the gravy is a bit salty, or maybe a little peppery for one who's, sensitive to taste. But my wife likes to say I have a cast iron stomach. You'll excuse my language for our listeners, but she would say I would eat shit in a cone, and she's probably right.
My virgin ears.
There's not too much that I wouldn't eat. Although I must say, she put me on the straight and narrow when we got married. She introduced me to lobster. I never really was a lobster eater before, So I started eating sushi. You know.
Oh, love it. I love sushi. Love it.
You know, all this stuff. You know, basically, I was your old-fashioned meat and potatoes man. You know, with an occasional chicken on Friday night, because Jewish people have chicken soup and chicken on Friday night. You know, it's like you growing up when you would have no meat on Friday before Pope John the 23rd said it was okay, you know, to have meat. That always got me. First of all, let me preface this by saying I love John the 23rd, and I think that Pope Francis has a chance to follow in his footsteps as far as making breakthroughs. But you know, you have an emissary supposedly from God, okay, and I'm not knocking it, but what does he do? He prays and Jesus whispers in his ear, it's okay to eat meat on Friday now. I mean, I don't understand that.
I don't, me neither. I don't understand that at all. No.
Well, did you hear did you hear the big news about him today? Anybody?
Yeah, no, the news about him basically covering up for the Catholic Church when it comes to the priests and the sex scandals.
No, not at all. He hasn't done that yet, I don't think.
Well, no. What he did was he said that the Catholic Church was the only organization to come forward and try to do something about it, and now we have to move forward. And there's a big movement here in this country, okay, primarily up in New England, because that's where it all started, in Boston. You know, people who were sexually abused by their priests and everything saying, you know, they had such high hopes for Francis, and all of a sudden, you know, he comes out with a statement like this, and they found it very upsetting and hurtful, you know, because it's like making an excuse as to why the priests who abuse the children, rather than be defrocked, were just sent to another parish without any explanation as to why they're being transferred. So they had a chance to do it again, you know.
Well, no, this is not what I was talking about. He confessed today to steal some. What do they call those beads, Dan? You're Catholic. Rosary beads.
The rosary beads.
Rosary beads, yeah.
Yeah, he confessed to stealing rosary beads from a corpse. From a dead priest.
Why, he liked the way they looked? I thought rosary beads basically look the same. You know, they're black, they're silver, they may have, obviously they have a cross at the bottom, and they wrap it around the hand of the dead person, you know, when they have their hands over their chest or whatever. I mean, you know, unfortunately we've all seen enough dead people to notice these things, you know.
Well, anyway, he stole it. He stole them.
Well, I hope maybe he liked it so much that he's waiting until he passes away, and that's what he's going to be buried with, you know.
This is the Pope?
Unless the person that he took it from was a special person to him, you know. Maybe that person meant something very special to him, and, you know, this is like a remembrance or a keepsake, you know.
Stealing anything off a corpse? Come on. That doesn't sound right.
Well,
anyway.
Look, you know, Jewish people believe that, you know, when someone passes away, you take all the clothes and you give it away to charity. You know, it's not the thing to do to give away a dead person's clothes, and especially you don't wear a dead person's shoes, you know, dead man's shoes. You know, certainly not. You give it away to charity.
So if somebody else wears the dead man's shoes?
Well, you do what they say. Right. My wife Ellen just said, you know, you throw out the clothes or you donate it. But the shoes, you really throw out. You never walk. She just said the same thing. You never walk in a dead man's shoes. Okay? Whether it's superstition, okay, for whatever reason, you don't walk in a dead man's shoes. You know, and I firmly believe that as well. You know.
Yeah, I got another.
That's why I'm changing all my shoes to slippers now, so they can be thrown out. You know. What the hell?
Anybody here of a woman called Emma Duval? Emma Duval, Devoll.
Emma Duval?
Yeah.
Well, Duval's a famous name, obviously, actor, but I don't know about Emma.
Okay.
I don't know. What about her?
She lives in the Bronx. She won the $8.2 million Powerball. playing the numbers off fortune cookie.
Oh yes, right, no, right. I saw that on the news. Yeah, she said she's going to take a vacation and then she's going to decide what she's going to do with the money.
But is that something right off the fortune cookie?
Well, hey, listen. In a way, that's no different than when you get up there and you play a number and you just let the machine pick the numbers for you. You know, you all have the same possible chance. But I'm glad for her because she seems like a feisty older woman who, will certainly make sure that after taxes, her family and everything, everybody, that everybody's going to get a little bit. But the bottom line is, by today's standards, what the hell is $2 million?
Eight?
It's not going to change your life.
It's eight.
You're right, it won't.
8 million.
It won't.
No, this is somebody else. Because
no, you're right.
You're wrong.
No, you're right. 2 million. I'm sorry.
So I mean, think about when the lottery was first initiated about 30 some odd years ago. Okay, it was very rare that somebody won $1 million. Okay, but the bottom line is it doesn't change your lifestyle because after taxes, if you don't do something with the money so the money makes money, you're going to run out of that money in no time. $1 million maybe is if you work in 2 jobs, or if you have, in a family, you have a husband and wife who both work, okay, and then you win a couple of $1 million. So maybe for a while, the spouse who earns the least amount of money can afford maybe not to work full time, okay, be it husband or wife, because in many families, the wife makes more money than the husband.
Well, listen, look at it this way, Mark. If you win $2 million and you invest it on something that's not risky, you get 5%. So that's 100 million.
Oh, I know. Your money keeps making money, and you could live off the interest.
100,000 a year. If you can't live off 100,000 a year, you got a problem.
Hey, listen. When I was going for my 30 credits above my master's, before the PhD, and I was taking business courses because I had my fill of education courses at that time.
Okay, I got another call here.
Oh,
from New York.
Okay.
What are you doing?
From New York, we've got.
How we doing?
Hey, how are you?
I got a couple of. I got a few questions.
Is this Francis?
Yes, it is. How we doing?
How are you, Francis?
Did you say you went to Brooklyn Tech or Brooklyn Prep?
No, Brooklyn Tech.
Oh, okay, because I went to St. John's Prep, and that was it was actually down. I used to go the same way. I used to get off by Juniors and take the bus to go to St. John's.
Okay, I remember that. Sure.
Yeah, we were about 10 blocks away from you. But Brooklyn Prep was our rival school, and we were actually there. I hate to say it, but you're old, man. We were there at the same time.
Yeah, I am old. But you're younger than me.
I graduated in '66, so you're right in there with me, kid.
So did I. That's it. It was a good year.
Oh yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm not that far
behind. Speaking of good year, I hope everybody in the family's well now.
Everybody's fine. All is good.
Good.
We're in good shape. Couple of things. Couple of things about Lent. Okay, you guys were talking about Lent before, and
I gave up sex.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife did. It was just the same thing.
Yeah. You guys don't need Lent to give up sex.
There's no sense both of us giving it up.
Hey, listen, it's easy for me to give it up.
No, it's very easy. You ask, if a priest or somebody was to ask you,
mm-hmm.
What would you miss? It's like, I wouldn't miss too much. It's like I used to say, God forbid, and I don't mean to make a joke about this, I said, God forbid I would get cancer. I said, I don't have any hair to lose anyway. So, it's not so bad. So if I give up sex, what's the difference? Who misses it? I mean, it's been a while,
Oh, listen, I'm not dead yet.
You're also a lot younger than us, Dan.
That wasn't Dan. That was Frank.
Oh, that was Frank?
Well,
Yeah.
We were dead.
Well, I don't know. I look at it and it looks dead to me. So.
Oh,
what
God.
can I tell you?
I know. Now, here's an interesting fact for you guys.
Frank, you called up at the right time.
Yep. Yeah, because I'm standing listening to this. Now, you see, I just happen to have read this. Right? You know, in during the Lent season, right, Catholics are not supposed to eat meat on Fridays. Okay?
Still?
Now, at one time, right, we never ate meat on Fridays.
I know. We had mentioned that before. Right,
that was correct, but they changed it because of the dietary laws of the rest of the world. That meat is they that's why they changed it. But
well, it was John the 23rd.
Yeah, it was John the 23rd that did it, but it was done right by John the 23rd. But each bishop decides in his location whether or not the people will have to eat meat on Friday or not, depending on the needs of the people. If the meat is the only thing that these people have to eat, then he allows it. So most of the United States, because fish is readily available, and of course there's the old reliable pizza, the people in the United States, right? The people in the United States, because what else? You ate pizza on Friday night, right?
Fish
right?
sticks and pizza. Fish sticks and pizza.
Yeah, the people during Lent in the United States cannot eat meat, but the people in Europe can eat meat on Fridays.
Well, think about this. I know you just said that you went to parochial school for the bulk of your education.
16 years.
Okay, I don't envy you at all, but I don't remember. I honestly don't remember in public school on a Friday them ever serving any meat at all.
No.
Okay, even in public school, I think. They never really, as an observance, I guess, to the, Catholic students,
That's right. Friday, you guys got fish sticks, right? And Wednesday, we got a half a day off so that you guys can come to religious instructions.
I know. Hey, listen, I remember those days when they used to come and pull the kids out of school, and we would say, hey, what's going on? I got to go to Hebrew school after school. Now, while I was a good student, the last thing I wanted to do at 3:30 or 3:45 was to go to Hebrew school until 5 or 5:30, and then come home in the dark. I mean, and then sit down and do regular homework and then Hebrew school homework. Hey, come on.
That's right. And we got Wednesday half a day. Now that's called not separation of church and state.
Exactly.
No one ever said we were all perfect, when it comes to that.
Somebody was on the radio today, and they were talking about the same thing. On Fridays, right, they got fish sticks at school because of the Catholic schools weren't allowed to eat meat. So, back then everybody worked.
It made Mrs. Gordon's a millionaire.
Yep.
From Groton, Connecticut, up there, her frozen fish sticks,
So, and the other one, you remember the, what do you call it? The filet with the lemon butter on it?
Yes. Yes.
And I see it in the supermarkets now, I look at it, I go, I can't eat that.
It brings back harsh memories, It really does. But you have any bizarre stories to tell us, Frank?
No, my life is not bizarre at all.
No, I met her. She's a charming woman. Yes. In fact, I met her at Mary's birthday. Wasn't it Mary's birthday that time? At the buffet.
Yeah. What was it? On Sunrise Highway. Right?
Sunrise Highway, exactly. Yeah.
I remember that. I was there. You're right.
I know. I was jealous because you guys were having a drink, and I had to have diet soda because my wife would give me a bad look if I had scotch, or something, So
I was always room for scotch.
I know. But well, let me try to get a couple of these. Where are they now? A name from the past: Jay North, Dennis the Menace.
Dennis the Menace, yeah.
Okay, Dennis the Menace quit acting and joined the Navy, and he served from 70 to 79. And then when he got out, he was a prison guard in Florida.
Really?
And now he runs a child actor advocacy group with another child actor. Remember Paul Peterson from Donna Reed?
Donna Reed show, yeah.
Sure. The two of them run a child advocacy group where they do, I guess, charitable things.
Mm-hmm.
And they keep young people on the straight and narrow.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys, to interject here. Who cares?
Well, that's why we're saying, where are they now?
You know what? I'm going to tell you. Here's one for you. Do you remember? I came home tonight. My wife was watching Netflix. The hell's the name of the show?
House of Cards.
No,
Seems
no,
to be
no.
what
The Mad Men. She's watching.
Oh,
right?
She's catching up. Okay.
She's on Mad Men, right? And the one of the characters in the show was the kid. I think his name was Robert Morse from How to Succeed in Business Without Really
Yes,
Trying.
I remember. Yeah, he was the star.
He's on this show, so he did nothing since that show all the way through, and all of a sudden he showed up on Mad Men.
Well, he's like a second banana. I mean, these guys must be doing something to earn a living, granted, but, they haven't done anything grandiose,
No. Yeah,
but,
and they're not getting big residuals. They probably get no residuals from those shows in the 50s and 60s.
Well, if they didn't have a good attorney or agent, which most of them didn't, they're getting nothing. Because I remember, who was it, Audrey Meadows, and especially Joyce Randall from The Honeymooners.
Yeah,
Joyce Randolph was saying that the way Gleason wrote their contracts, the only one who got residuals for every show was him. No one else got anything.
Yep.
Okay? So, it's like you don't know this side of a person. It's like with Abbott and Costello. Everybody thought that Costello was the bumbling fool, okay, and always getting into trouble. Well, he had a son who was like 4 years old, and he drowned in the family pool. And his wife was there, and he became so bitter after that, okay? I mean, she divorced him. He didn't mind being the fool on the screen, but when it came to having business sense, Bud Abbott died in an old actor's home. None of those guys, unless they had good agents, ever knew how to save money or invest money. Same thing with the old-time baseball players. Nowadays everybody has an agent and a contract, and what they look to do, if they have multi-million-dollar contracts over a number of years, they want the bulk of the money when they're older, so they have the residuals and the interest, and they can live off that. And then they figure, well, if I'm good enough, I can find a job in PR, doing PR work, or maybe within baseball itself. So.
Well, actually, I have a lot of baseball player friends, and they all work for the team doing public relations. Right?
Yeah.
And all their money was socked away for their retirement because they were a little smarter than the. I think the greatest story is Mickey Mantle when he wins the Triple Crown, they give him $100,000 salary. $100,000.
That's right. He was one of the first. He and Willie were the first two to make six figures. And nowadays, you get somebody who bats .250 makes $250,000 a year.
$250 makes $25 million.
Or the old Brooklyn Dodgers. My wife tells me stories, about because she was a Dodger fan growing up.
Degenerate Dodger fan.
Well, she was heartbroken when they moved to L.A., but still, the Dodgers lived in the neighborhood. They all lived in Brooklyn. They all had apartments. Nobody ever lived high off the hog.
No. What's his name? Who the hell was the pitcher? Well, Ferrollo. He lived on a dead-end street, right, in a cul-de-sac. It was a dead end back then. Now it's a cul-de-sac over by 92nd Street in Brooklyn, right? He'd come out and play with the kids on the dead end, right? And what do you call it? The Erskine lived out in. They named a street after him out there now. Where they have that new exit off the Bell Parkway. That's named after Carl Erskine. He lived right there.
Yeah, I was wondering. That's right. I was, when they made that I was wondering who they named it after.
Yeah, that's Carl.
Okay,
and,
Carl
they named
Erskine,
the
sure.
Street, yeah, they named the street after him, and they ended up making it the exit off the highway. And a lot of them were around. They all lived. A lot of them walked to the stadium.
You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of Joyce Kilmer, Sergeant Joyce Kilmer, who wrote Trees, the poem Trees.
Oh, yeah, sure.
He died in World War I.
I wish that I shall never be.
I wish that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree. Blah blah blah. I could tell you the rest, but that's neither here nor there. But the point is, they asked him, should you die, you want a statue, because he was already a poet back then in World War I, and he said no. He said, I want them to name an outhouse after me. And if you're traveling on either, I think, the Jersey Turnpike or the Thruway, there is an exit, the Joyce Kilmer rest stop, where you could go to the bathroom and, pull out maps of Jersey and things to see. But that's what they did. That's what they did.
We traveled a lot during when we were kids, because my mother took us to the all these different the wars, all the battlefields in Jersey and this and that. And a lot of the rest stops running down the Jersey Turnpike are, Molly Pitcher. I can't remember the names of them now, but they were all from the war, the Revolutionary War, and they named all of these rest stops going down the Jersey Turnpike after all these characters from the Revolutionary War.
Well, you see, that was an educational trip.
That's what my mother said it was. I thought it was just a reason to get us out of the house.
You peed in their urinal. You know, it's exactly what you did.
I peed on Molly Pitcher.
You'll excuse me for coughing.
Hey, that sounds good. Is that malaria, or is that...
No, I have pneumonia.
Oh, that's right. You had pneumonia,
yeah. It's actually...
Are you a Giants fan at all, or a football fan, Giants?
Oh, sure. Yeah, Giants, of course.
Oh. All right. Well, look, I got a fascinating story for you. I had a fascinating story. I'm going to try to sum it up or make it, small.
No, you can drag it out. We like long stories here.
Yeah. Well, okay. Ron Dixon, Giants. Ron Dixon brought the Giants to the Super Bowl. And he actually got really close with my in-laws, my brother-in-laws. I'm talking about, I got an Italian family, and they are, diehard Giants fans. They have tattoos, and they only wear Giants gear. So he came from Florida, Ron Dixon, and so you know what I'm talking about, Ron Dixon?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Sure. So he came from Florida, wanted to join the Giants, and my brother-in-laws, they're diehard. So he came close. So he wanted to get to know the New York State and to get to know that. So they put him in the stands next to my brother-in-laws, and I got a lot of them. Down in the family, I got 5 brother-in-laws, and they put him next. Somehow life works funny things. They put him next to him. So they made friends and 6 phone numbers. Now he came to my home. Or my brother-in-law's home. Actually, not my home. My brother-in-law's home a couple of summers ago with his wife. He came up. He flew up. They made friends, and he told me how it was money, the finances. Yeah, I think he got a $30 million contract, he said. But you know what? They said it worked out. How can you feel bad for, how do you feel bad for something like this? But $30 million contract. But you know what? After taxes and they had to move and his commissions, he told me he walked away with maybe $10 million. And he said, and I got to meet him. And that's part. What about the story is that everyone's asking about football and how you do that catch and everything else and whatnot. And he came talk to me. I really don't want to talk about football. I want to talk about his life. He loved it. I sat with him longer than anybody else. He didn't want to talk about football. He's in acting now and everything else. I don't think there's any movies. But
when you think about it, it's because they want you to know that, football doesn't define who they are. They're a football player, but they're also a person, and they have interests, and they have other things that they do, especially now that he's not playing anymore, as far as work is concerned, But, it's unfortunate because when you think about it, okay, I get together with a bunch of teachers. What do we talk about? They talk about teaching. Last thing I want to talk about. My wife was in the medical field. She gets together with doctors that she knows, friends of ours. Okay, what do they talk about? Medicine. And we're all guilty of this in our own little way. We're all guilty in our own little way,
Yeah, he actually purposely walked away from, the barbecue. I'm talking, he really flew from Florida for my brother-in-law's, and with his wife, and he was a little, I must say, a little arrogant, a little on the radio, a little cocky. Not that he wasn't a bad guy, but, he always said, he didn't say my name was Ron, always Ron Dixon, but okay, that's just, I guess he should say that, I guess, but, he'd said that he came to my table outside, a little barbecue thing with about, I don't know how many people were there, 30 people, but he came to my table. He was done talking about football. I came to him. I didn't say anything about football. I said nothing about it. I knew who he was, and he smiled, and he just said, I'd rather sit here than talk about his football career. And he told me how it worked. He got a $30 million contract. He goes, it's not all what's cracked up to be. I got 3 years of life in football. I got to take care of a lot of bills. I got to take care of this. They don't.
Yeah, but Dan, if he was smart, okay, what he would have done was he would have gotten himself an agent or a financial advisor, okay, worked out a plan where, yeah, he got a $30 million contract for 3 years, but like I say, split that money up. Get the bulk of the money when you're older. Right now you're working and you're earning that kind of money, but there's going to come a time when you're not going to be able to make that kind of money. So you want to make sure you have money coming in.
Yeah.
This was the problem with a lot of these guys. They didn't think about it. They didn't look to protect their money, so they wound up giving the bulk of it back to the government.
Well, they have a great look. I'm actually jealous. They had a great lifestyle. They had $30,000 earrings and like Burris and the Giant shot himself in the leg. What a dumbass. They don't realize what they have, and it can get pulled from them in a heartbeat. But that's the closest I've really spoken to a famous player, and he told me how it is. The kids and the traveling, and they don't spend time with the wife and kids.
Well,
and,
it's
not that all that.
Hey, Felix, is that a hint?
Yeah, we lost Frank.
We did. What happened?
I guess he got tired of you guys talking together. I don't know.
No, he was doing plenty of talking before.
I have no idea.
I guess you don't like my football stuff.
I don't
well,
know.
it's too bad. It was nice hearing from Frank. I hope if he gets a chance, he calls back, or maybe on another show. But
it was nice hearing a caller come in. It was nice hearing another caller.
It is.
Always.
But let me try to get back to this list of where are they now. The next person I have on my list, you remember Dennis Franz?
Dennis Franz.
From Hill Street Blues and NYPD Blue. He played Sipowicz.
Jesus. No, you lose me on this one.
He went through on NYPD Blue, he went through a lot of changes. He started out as a bigoted, detective, to the point where by the end of the show, he was actually, he took the sergeant, he took the sergeant's test and he passed. And when the captain got a promotion, they put him in charge of the squad, But he has since left acting. I know likes to cook because I saw him on one of the cooking shows one time. And he does a lot of public awareness for colorectal cancer screenings. I think he was unfortunate enough to be diagnosed. He's fine, but it's like everything else. You get somebody who is well known and you get them to do commercials for you, And in that way, you hope that somebody out there will be smart enough to go and get screened for these things, you know?
Yeah, I tell you. Felix, what is your ministry in? What do you, how are you a minister? 'Cause I have to confess something.
Uh-oh. This is your first confession, Felix, and it's public.
Felix, where's the screen or where's the door? Where do I walk in?
Well, listen. We don't have a door opening sound, do we? Well, in my religion.
No, not anymore.
In my religion,
I do have a confession to make.
Okay, hold on. My religion is a little different. Go ahead.
Hey Dan, we really don't need a screen. We're on the phone. No one can see you now anyway.
Good. Well, I do have a confession. I went to UU Church last night. If you call it church, I take it back. The UU. I was bored, and my mother said, "Come on, come." And I said, so you don't do anything. So I went to UU, whatever you want to call it, Unitarian Church, if you want to call it church. And I really don't. I don't know. To me, it's like a bunch of, I'm sorry to say, guys, a bunch of old people, rich old people who have nothing better to do, and it's a cult, as far as I'm concerned. But what we talked about and what was, they have these organizations at night. They talk about certain things. And again, it's not like mass or anything I went to. I'm learning a whole new thing. Not that I want to learn what they're doing, but it just knowing each other. And, again, to me, it's a bunch of rich white people trying to kiss their asses. Sorry, can I say on the phone? On the
That's
radio?
okay. That's
well,
fine.
you just did. So what?
But, I went there, and, as far as learning, it's not a religion. I mean, maybe it is, but it isn't. This is probably the third time I went. And what they did was they were talking about, funny, I'm going to educate you guys on something. They had a big auditorium, and they were talking about, believe it or not, you're going to laugh when I say it, but they were talking about the plastic bottles, water bottles. What a joke it is, and what chemicals in the bottle. You're better off drinking tap water. And it was actually not a guest speaker, but I actually went up and spoke because I know a little bit about it. I mean, I just don't understand the Unitarianism, the church. I take it back. I can't say church. Unitarianism. It's just strange. It's just people taking care of walking. It's like a social club.
Well, it's a humanistic religion, and they believe in helping others. This is their main thing.
Well, you know what? I've been to Catholic school and been to a community church, and I know religions, but it just seems like it's a very, very friendly community service or something. Just like a club. I don't know what the hell else to describe it. There's no Jesus. There's no Lord. There's no God. But it's a nice thing, and they all come together. And they just talked about they showed I only went because I was bored, and I keep my mother in company, and they were talking about the bottled waters, how these companies are destroying our how they're obviously we all know bottled water is expensive. And how it's more, you pay more for bottled water than you do for, gas. That's more, you put a bottle of water in your car, it's more than, what you pay for at the pump. It's crazy. And it was really scary. It's just educational, I guess. I freaked out that I went.
And environmentally, it's extremely bad, also, the plastic bottles.
Well, it goes back even further than you two. Because, I'm just talking out of what I saw. The videos and speakers, and I was one of the speakers, because I actually went to Hofstra at one time, and one of my classes was being an environmentalist, and we went to all the reservoirs all over Long Island, and I learned a lot. So I can relate to what they were saying with the water and everything. The water that Coca-Cola is producing, it's all the same. What is it, Danzy, and all the other Nestle, it's all the same. It doesn't matter. And all they're doing is taking water and boil it and then bottle it.
I'm gonna. You talk about what boiling water or whatever. When my sister-in-law was young, very young, my wife Ellen tells me that they used to get bottled water, delivered, and her sister would only drink bottled water. So when her mother would run out of the bottled water, she would fill it up with tap water and give it to her daughter, and she wouldn't know the difference, And I wonder if, nowadays, if, you did that to any one of our kids, if they would know the difference as to what they were drinking, if you just filled the bottle up and, tried, resealed it as best you can or whatever, and see if they know the difference between, the bottled water and the tap water.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Long Island water, not city water, Long Island water, to me has a nasty taste.
It's the fluoride, isn't it?
Yeah, well, look, what I learned, I can, for your audience, I can just say that what I learned at this UU thing, but it's very educational, but I went to a course for this stuff. The government, the state regulates our state water, whether it's Queens or Long Island, wherever you are. Now, these bottle companies, Coca-Cola, meaning, because most of these three major waters are Coca-Cola owned, they don't have to go through anything. So all they're doing is getting water out of Jamaica Bay, boiling it, and then put it in a bottle, and here you go.
Well,
yeah, it's a psychological thing too, guys. Psychological. I mean, this is what I'm not preaching here. This is what I learned, that they're saying that humans or us like being a pacifier. They like something in our hand. I'm sorry, guys. We like something in our hand that put it in our mouth, and we like doing that.
Well, I don't know.
Don't fly over there, guys. That's what I just saw what they were talking about. We like to be pacified. We like to have a hold something in our hand and put it to our mouth and be pacified.
Well, look, I don't know if you remember, if you had called up on the day when I discussed what I used to tell the kids, when I was teaching science and we would learn about the watershed process for cleaning water. So I used to tell my students, I said, because when I taught sixth grade, I taught a self-contained program. I had to teach science, which is not my forte, not by any stretch of the imagination. And I told them about how the watershed, the water gets cleansed and recycled. I said, when you go to the bathroom and you flush the toilet, et cetera,
right.
And I went through that whole thing, and they said, ooh. But that was me. I always like to leave them laughing, but at least they were learning. But anyway, yes.
Well, I spoke and at the UU, and only because I took an endurance class in environmental protection, and it was 3 credits I got. But it was a long enduring class, and they took us all the reservoirs on Long Island and how my professor for all of us said, I'll never forget it. Just said the bottled water is more dangerous, the bottled water, than it is just drinking your tap water. Because right, it's nuts.
I remember the commercial on TV when they show the graphic of a whole string of empty water bottles, and they said it could stretch around the earth 2 or 3 times all the bottles that Americans use, for their water,
Right. Well, I mean, for your listeners, I don't want to go too much on the UU stuff with what I heard, and I already knew, but that plastic up in the waters, showing pictures of films and crabs eating it, and then they're digesting the plastic we're putting in our waters, and then we eat them, and we wonder why women have breast cancer. Wonder why cancer's around. They're eating this plastic stuff. Now, what I can tell your listeners is that if you look at any bottle you pick up right now, once you put the phone down, You go in your refrigerator right now, you flip it over, it's PETE, and it's on the bottom of every plastic thing you eat. That's a biochemical of oil, and it goes in sun too long, heat too long, and then it becomes cancerous. I'm not a doctor, but this is what I heard. I saw and heard, people spoke out about it. They're finding fish with all these little bottle plastics in them, and we're eating them at a restaurant, smiling and having a good time. And I'm not being a doctor preaching to you guys, but that's what I just saw.
Well, it's like the commercial on TV when the person orders pie. It doesn't make a difference what kind of pie it is. And then the waitress says, do you want plastic or whipped cream? So the guy looks at him. He says, well, she tells him, Cool Whip is plastic because that's basically, when you break it down, it has the chemical components of plastic. Whipped cream is whipped cream, So, what could I tell you?
I know. We all want to pay the $7 meal, but that's that thing at the UU. Go back to religion. I don't know what their point of purpose is, other than I didn't see any harm being done by them. But
well, you know what it might be, Dan? It might be people who, have had their fill of organized religion and being proselytized through their whole life, and maybe, religions, being closed-minded, chosen people, do this, do that, and they're just a bunch of, what?
When I was there just last night, I hate to be being racist to this, but when I was there, it's all just, to me, a bunch of old white people who are bored. I saw people wearing beanies on their head,
yarmulkes.
And I'm like, okay.
Yarmulkes.
And people came up to me, very friendly. Absolutely very friendly. No questions asked. Would you like to join the church in the UU?
Well, you see, but that's the come on. Everybody's very friendly when they see it. You know what it's like? It's like parents without partners. Okay, when you get divorced, you're a parent. You go to one of these meetings, and all the women circle around. Okay, they see a new face. If it's a guy, okay, and they all start with the questions. Becoming a regular and coming to meetings, and it's the same thing with this, or anything for that matter. They always want to get you to join. And then after they get you to join, it's okay. Now what are you going to do for us?
Oh,
see, that's what turns me off to religion. You go to a synagogue on a Sunday, all right, to the men's club on a Sunday night or whatever it is, and they're doing this charity thing or that charity thing. It's like, fundraising for your school. What are you going to do for us? Now that you're a member, you got to do something. You can't just be a member without getting involved, okay?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. My mother and father, I see why they get allured to it. Because, but you're right, Mark, because, they also, before I know it, mothers have to join the book club and sell books in the bookstore. My father has to play in the band or the orchestra, and then they have to pay a fee. But it is so beautiful. I really tell you. Believe me, I'm not going to get sucked into this thing. But it's beautiful. It's just hard to. It just absorbs you, but it feels like a cult. And it's beautiful. I know you've been to church before or a temple, but this place is. I've never seen anything like it before. Many state homes and mansions on the same property, and they have a sort of I don't know. It's hard to describe.
Well, you know what else they get, Dan? They get a tax write-off.
Right. Well, yeah. Right. They get this right.
If it's in somebody's estate, okay, that they're meeting, they don't have to pay taxes.
Right.
Okay?
Mark, this property that I'm talking about, not like just you go to drive off the street in Brooklyn or Queens. This is like...
No, it's like the Vanderbilts when you go to their mansion out on the island.
Right. Exactly. Right. You feel special. You feel like you're rich. You're driving through these mansions on the side of the roads here and there, and here's the church. I don't think it's called a church, but it looks kind of represents one. And it's beautiful, doing the right thing. I just think it's a bunch of rich white people who have nothing better to do, and then kiss their asses, kiss their butts, and I don't have to describe it.
Well, don't they take money and donate money to causes? Don't they donate money to causes?
I'm sure they do.
No, well, right. That's what's hard to.
I'm sure they do.
I just think they're. I don't know enough well to even talk about them. But right, they do donate everything that comes in. They donate it out. So I don't know whether to put them down or not. I think it's kind of weird how they operate. But right, all the money is true. All the money, Felix, they put in donations, whatever. Even last night when it went, whatever, a few bucks in the basket. But you know what? It's supposed to go for a good cause, and it does. According to my parents, it goes to a good cause. They donate $8 million a year to charities. They're not looking to make money. They just donate it. So is it good or bad? I don't know.
Well, they must be doing some good. I mean, really, when you think about it. As long, but then again, how many times years later do you read stories in the paper about some guy? They've finally found somebody who embezzled X number of millions of dollars from such and such an organization, So you got to be careful.
Well, look,
no, I'm not. Look, I'm not joining it. I just.
No. I'm not saying you are, and I'm not, saying that you should look out. I'm just saying, in general, sometimes you just don't know who you are trusting. The person who's the treasurer. May be a great person, but you don't know what the ulterior motives are in the end. You know what I'm saying?
It's hard. You'll understand if you went to the I believe I'm not telling you to go. I just went now 3 times, and it's just different. There's no religion there. I mean, they have a speaker, and I like the warm, feeling as far as community service to each other. That's, I guess, what they're about.
Listen, you go to a Reformed Jewish ceremony on a Friday night. They do a lot of singing, and they do a lot of different very happy things. You go to a Saturday of a Orthodox Jewish, what do you call it?
Traditional.
Traditional, the men's separate from the women. There's no talking except for praying, and everything is in Hebrew. So, even within religions there are differences. And the UU is considered a Christian organization.
I have a little Italian neighborhood, and I got a lot of Jewish friends. Well, why do they keep it like a secret? They don't say anything, and not that they're good people or not. I mean, they're great. They're good friends, but they don't say anything.
Keep what a secret? I don't understand what you're saying.
They don't, like you and I are talking, all of us are talking right now about our religion, our beliefs, but they don't talk about it. They don't, I don't know. I don't know. How do I describe it? They don't talk about it.
Well,
about what they believe, I don't understand the man-woman relationship. They don't talk. They won't say anything. It's not like talking in the streets. Yo, hey, yeah, well, this girl and I did this and that. They're quiet. They don't do anything. They don't say anything. I mean, but they're very quiet. They keep themselves and very clean people, but they don't say anything. They won't do gossip. They just keep to themselves. I just never understood that part with them. Maybe you guys are Jewish. Maybe you guys enlighten me. I don't know. Well,
you got to join the men's club and the women's club. When you do that, there's plenty of gossip.
Yeah, geez. No, not to knock. Look, they're great people. They're very friendly, very clean. But I just wonder that little secret clique, I guess, if you will, clique or club. They just stick to their own. I don't.
I have new secret. I think you find most people not most, many people are like that. I mean, when you look for a neighborhood in which to live,
like
you don't want to be the only. You don't want to be the only one on the block, okay, or the only one in a neighborhood. You'd like to know that there are a few families, who might be Jewish, or a few families who are Italian or Irish, or black, or brown, or yellow. I mean, you want to pick the kind of neighborhood that you feel comfortable in. When you think about small towns upstate, like Geneseo, or where my ex-wife used to live in Mineville, and her father came from Witherby, I mean, these towns are a joke. I mean, it's like population 50. When they close the mines up there's nothing, okay? And the bottom line is, I mean, they had to drive like 100. I mean, if they were looking for it, you had to drive like 100 miles to find the Jewish temple. I mean, because there just wasn't anybody. It was the church, and that's it. So it's but think back to when you were looking for homes, yourself, when you were younger. And first married before the divorce and everything, you wanted to find a community where you're comfortable, where you weren't just the only person on the block who was, let's say, Catholic or something like that, but then neighbors become neighbors, and you share stories, I mean, although I have to say, today, as compared to the past, when your mom and dad were young, or when my mom and dad were young, when we lived in the projects in Brooklyn, everybody knew everybody else's business. There were no secrets, okay? Nowadays, people come home from work, they close their shades, they close their doors, they put on the TV, they turn on their computer, whatever it is they do for entertainment. And maybe you see your neighbors, when the weather gets nice. But it's like I said after Hurricane Sandy. I saw people on this block that I've never seen, and I'm living here 30 years, okay? I mean, all of a sudden, everybody came out, and everybody was talking to everybody else, and what was your damage, and what happened. And now that things are pretty much back to normal, everybody's back in their house, The only difference is now when I see somebody drive by, I know enough to raise my hand and say hi. That's not to say that they're going to wave back, but, that's what it is. You really don't know your neighbors.
Well,
everything, you keep things to yourself.
Well,
Also,
Sandy really... Go ahead, Felix.
No, I was going to say, when you lived in the projects, you lived in a very enclosed environment. Everybody was next to you, on top of you, and underneath you. You couldn't help but run into your neighbors all the time. Living in your own house, you go in your car, you come out of your car, you go in your house. You never see your neighbors.
Yeah, but there are some... Think of the homes on Staten Island. Most of those homes are attached, okay? Out on Long Island, everything is detached.
Right.
Okay, but if you're attached, it means you have a common wall. And I remember, and I know that from visiting people who have a common wall because they have an attached house, you can hear what goes on next door.
Listen,
I mean, if the voices are loud enough, you could certainly hear if they're blasting their TV.
I'll tell you, when I lived in Queens, when I had a common wall and attached to another house, everybody was friends there.
No, I'm not saying no. I'm not saying no.
Let's give you, for instance, you walk out of my balcony. His balcony is attached to mine. You can't help but talk to each other because you're both sitting on the balcony.
Well, it's one or the other. It's either you become friends or you just ignore each other. If I hate to use my sister as an example. My middle sister lives in Rockaway, lives by herself, one-bedroom apartment, and she says the neighbors next to her are constantly blasting their music, and she's banging on the wall, I mean, I can't say that she has too many nice things to say about them, and I can't say that they have too many nice things to say about her, there are, I remember when we lived in Forest Hills. Okay, it was in the bylaws of the co-op board that within a certain amount of time of moving in, you had to put down carpeting. Otherwise, you walked in stocking feet, because there's nothing worse than hearing high heels clop down on you, okay, from the apartment upstairs,
right.
Okay, which really is common sense, and it's just being neighborly. You know, I mean, think about, I don't have to tell you the kind of shoes that some people wear. You know, the men who have leather heels and the women with their spike heels, if they don't take their shoes off right away, you know, I mean, you can really hear every footstep, you know. So, you know, but I mean, you know, you make accommodation. But I think we're straying here. I made this list up. Felix gave me this assignment. Felix gave me this assignment here, you know, and I haven't even gotten to most of these names here.
Well, let's go. Move it.
Move it. Trying to get a word in edgewise.
You? Come on, Mark. Let's go.
I know. You remember Eddie Haskell from Leave It to Beaver?
Yes.
The blonde who was always complimenting Mrs. Cleaver on how nice she looked?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he stopped acting after that show, got married. Now, mind you, he's married 54 years to the same woman. Can you imagine?
No, can't.
He's married 54 years to the same woman. He joined the LAPD in 1970. He served 18 years on the streets of Los Angeles, and then he was shot 3 times, okay, in an incident, and he took he had to take a disability pension, you know, but he did that for 18 years, you know. You remember Butch Patrick, Eddie Munster?
Yeah, of course. I met. Look, it's funny you mentioned Eddie Munster, the kid. I met him twice.
Really?
Yeah, at the Jersey Convention Center. I met the kid Eddie Munster. Not Eddie Munster. He probably Eddie passed, but the young. I met him twice.
What? He died? He died?
No, no. The kid, no. Eddie Munster. No, he's not Freddie. Eddie Munster. No, I met him twice.
Oh, okay. Well, he's in and out of drug rehab for most of his life after that, and he has prostate cancer.
He looked, just so you guys know, and your audience knows, I met him twice just a year and a year before. He looked great.
Well, I don't know. I hope that he is. You know,
he's fine. He's fine. He looks little. He looks small and short, and looks good though. But nice chap. He looks good.
All right. Here's an interesting story about Lindsay Wagner. Remember Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm telling you.
After the $6 million man.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
There came a Bionic Woman. Yeah.
She's a vegan now, which is neither here nor there, but she was scheduled to be on a flight in 1979, May 25th. For some reason, she felt sick, so she skipped the flight. Shortly after takeoff, the plane crashed, killing everybody on board.
Wow.
And now she runs a workshop on spirituality and meditation. Okay. Rick Moranis from Ghostbusters and Little Shop of Horrors and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yep.
Okay. He was born in Canada. I remember this story coming up now because one of our friends read his wife's sonograms and MRIs because she's a doctor. His first wife, well, his only wife, I don't think he married again. His wife died from liver cancer back in the day, okay? The late 80s, I believe, so the mid-80s. Well, he retired from acting to just be a family man and raise his kids, and occasionally you might see him, you know, in something here or there, but he gave up acting, you know. Joe Pesci from Lethal Weapon fame and Goodfellas.
Yeah.
You know, and My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he was a close friend of George Carlin and Robert De Niro. He still is. In fact, and he also, get this, you remember the group Joey D and the Starlighters?
Uh-huh.
Joe Pesci played guitar for them.
Huh.
Well, that's all I have for Where Are They Now? Now we come to bizarre stories. Okay, I don't have too many of them, but we'll, see whatever. I already told you two about the man who cut off his head and lived. Okay, and about that nun. This was also before you called up. A Salvadorian nun gave birth to a little baby boy, 7 pounds 7 ounces. Get this, she had no idea she was pregnant. Okay, she has no. Yeah, oh God is right. She has no idea. She thought she had stomach cramps. She wound up giving birth. She didn't know she was pregnant. Swears she never had sex, of course. So I told Felix, we could be looking at another immaculate conception here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, her convent is keeping very mum about this. I can understand why.
Look, Mark, I don't know. I mean, look, I like to believe in faith in God, but a woman's pregnant happened somehow. I don't think someone came down and.
Well, you're talking about some. Look, if she was from, what did I say?
Salvador.
She was from Salvador. Okay. Most of the people are not well educated. All right. A lot of the very poor people go into convents, and that's how they get their education, So she's only taught whatever it is the convent is teaching her. Obviously, there's no such thing as sex education because that's taboo, all right? So for all we know, maybe she didn't know. I mean, I remember, you'll excuse me, one of the nurses who worked with my mother, she also worked with my wife, because they both worked at a Peninsula Hospital.
Okay.
You're going back to the early 70s, early to mid-70s. She was, I guess the proper way to describe her would be big-boned. You don't like to say overweight, but she was broad-shouldered, And she wound up giving birth, and up until like almost the end, she could swear that she wasn't pregnant. I mean, look, she was not a virgin. She was single, so she had dates and she had sex, but she didn't know she was pregnant until almost the very end. She just thought that she was gaining weight. She didn't look any heavier than she ordinarily did. So, these things happen.
Wow.
Okay, now, for bizarre stories. I only have a few of these, not very many, so we'll have to see. A Tennessee man left his whole estate, including a mansion and $250,000 to his cat, which really is not a big story when you think about Leona Helmsley.
Oh, yeah, right. She left.
Who left some money to her dog, So, you can only imagine. I mean, these things do happen. Now, this one's really funny. In January of this year, an Oklahoma man was accused of killing his stepfather by smothering him to death or strangling him to death by giving him a wedgie. He pulled his underwear up over his head, and he strangled him.
Is this allowed on radio to talk about this?
This was actually I Googled all this. Okay, bizarre and strange news. Okay. Then there was a guy in Russia. Now, we're all familiar with the picture of the guy in Tiananmen Square who kept blocking the tank. Well, November of 2013, a Russian man was protesting in Red Square outside St. Basil's Cathedral, and part of his protest was to nail his testicles to the cobblestones. Okay? He was totally nude. He nailed his testicles to the cobblestones, and that was his protest. All right? I guess you would say only in Russia could something like that happen. I don't know. Well, look, they got Putin. What else?
Speaking of him, Russia, Putin, and it's so funny. I'm watching it. We're all watching it.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Felix, pat him on the back.
Yeah, I need that.
Yeah, but Putin, that's a whole nother, Jesus Christmas, that's a whole nother topic. But, it's so funny. Now they're talking about, pretty much Psych 101. Now I'm talking about his body language. They see his actions, how his body's moving, how he's crossing his legs, how he's walking. I went to college and all, but I don't know.
Well, did you see? What was it? I don't know if it was true. I mean, I better not bring it up because I don't know if it was really true. All right, but it was something off of the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, which a lot of times they do report real news. Okay, but anyway, now, how many times have you seen somebody begging for money? All the time, right? In Manhattan, Well, a woman, actually, I knew somebody who panhandled for the better part of 6 months because he was working on a master's thesis for his MS in psychology, okay, about panhandling and, who gives you money, who doesn't give you money. But anyway, this woman had a new twist on it. She didn't need the money for food or anything. She just sat there with a sign that said, please give me money. I'm saving for breast implants. Okay? And people actually gave her money, which only goes to show that honesty is the best policy. She fessed up and said she wants to improve her breasts and her image, and they gave her money for it,
Listen, I just read up real quickly about the
I'm drawing short. Maybe next show, guys. But my knowledge is limited with the school stuff. All you, Mark, would know about this charged school stuff.
Oh,
getting them out. I guess it's another time for the show, but I just don't understand it. What
that would be good for a separate show because obviously, first of all, you have to understand.
I don't know.
Unions are on the decline across the country, especially in education. All right, not so much in New York, but if you travel outside of New York, all right, guys like Christie. And it's only across the river. They're trying to bust unions because the teaching unions are such a powerful lobby. Okay, and right now, I am a retired educator, all right? I get a pension. If there aren't enough young teachers putting into the pension system, they have to somehow renegotiate my pension because even though it's guaranteed, nothing is guaranteed written in stone anymore. I remember when I was laid off as a teacher, they used to tell you, take a job as a teacher or a policeman or a fireman because you'll never get laid off and at least you'll get a pension. Well, when the city hit austerity back in '76, I was laid off. And you say to yourself, how could that be possible? And then I saw gross inadequacies because they were calling people back to teach who had less seniority than me. All right? But, they screw you over. I would use another word, but we're on radio, But that's neither here nor there. But I know my daughter in Ohio would have loved when she moved to Ohio, let's say 4 years ago. She would have loved to have taken a job, in teaching because it was steady and there was a pension and there was sick time, yada yada, etc. But Governor Kasich, in his infinite wisdom, along with people like Governor Scott in Wisconsin, and Governor Snyder in Michigan, they have less and less appointed teachers because they're filling these vacancies with contract workers. Now, that's not to say that these people are not qualified teachers. They are. It's just that they can't find work to join the union because of budget cuts. So the cities and the states find it's infinitely cost-effective to hire somebody, pay them a little bit more per day, but then you're not paying for medical for them. When they don't work, they don't get paid. They don't get paid in the summer. They don't get paid for holidays. And they're not going to be collecting a pension. Now, what happens is you're shrinking the teaching base, joining the union. So that means that teachers, not only teachers, but all union people within the cities are going to have to the states are going to have to renegotiate their contract because, this is a big problem across the United States. They can't afford to pay what they're paying in pensions because they're not bringing in enough money to cover it, okay? And that's why cities and states have budgetary crises. So, it's just another way of union busting, You say, what's the difference between somebody who goes into private industry and somebody who joins a union? Well, somebody in a union knows that there's no way they're ever going to make the kind of money that somebody makes in private industry, because in private industry, basically, the sky's the limit as far as what you could make, all right? As a municipal worker, you can only make so much money, and you're subjected to, if you're lucky, every 2 or 3 years, a contract where you get maybe a 2% raise, and many times you don't get any raise.
I'm just confused. Look, it's new to me. I feel kind of ignorant and not knowing. But what de Blasio is trying, I guess he's naming Zachario Carter as I guess what do you want to call him, the council. But why? I don't understand this charter school thing. I really don't. What's the problem?
Charter schools get basically to pick the students that come to them, okay? Usually there's a lottery. It runs on a lottery system, all right? At least the way the UFT describes it and the AFT. You have some schools, some charter schools, the teachers belong to the union, so they have to adhere to certain guidelines, union guidelines, okay, like the work day, you have to pay so much more per teacher if they put in a longer day or whatever it is. But for the most part, charter schools that are not connected to the union, their teachers work a longer day. A lot of times they donate their time on a Saturday. Okay, they come in and they do work. They are compensated in salary. They earn more of a salary than someone comparable to them in public education.
Like Mark, you got to speak about. I'm 3 years old. I'm on Long Island. I never heard of a charter school.
That's because it's mainly within the urban setting, okay? Because they're always complaining that urban schools are on the decline, all right? That it's so hard to teach, the inner city kids and everything. Out here on the island, you pay top dollar for the most part, depending upon where you live.
Right, you pay a lot of money. School taxes, a lot of money.
You pay a lot in school tax, okay, to make sure that services are supplied for your kids and everything. That's
Meanwhile,
the difference.
They're supposed to bring in paper towels and pencils and pens. They after you pay these taxes, we have to bring in.
Listen, my friend who I grew up with, okay, he's the one who spends half the year down in Florida. He's there now, and we don't tend to see eye to eye on politics. But when he was a science cluster teacher, now that would mean he was an elementary school teacher. When he was a cluster teacher, it meant that when the regular teacher, the homeroom teacher, was supposed to get a free period, he would go in and teach science. That was his specialty. Well, he had a third grader tell him, after about the third or fourth week of school, seeing that the kid didn't have any pencils or paper, the kid said to him, "My mother said that this is a public school and you have to give me a pencil and paper to work. I don't have to bring it in."
Yeah.
That's the difference. You know, if you think back to when your kids were younger, and I could think back to when all four of my kids were younger, when school was out in June, they would get a piece of paper along with their report card telling them exactly what they needed for the first day of school in September. You know, every subject was a different color notebook. You know, math was always done in pencil. Everything else was done in ink. You know, if they needed crayons, if they needed a calculator, we were told what kind of calculator to buy for our kids because that's what they were going to be using. And it didn't make a difference how much it cost. And in those days, a lot of things, you know, it might have cost $100, but $100 way back then was $100. You know.
I remember, Mark. I remember school. I don't remember, but like you're saying, all these kids, 4 kids. I don't remember sending my kids with pens and paper, and I'm like, where's the school? We're paying such high taxes. Where's the school doing this?
School, let me tell you.
Oh, but I said, funny note. Wait. Can you put a mirror under Felix's nose, make sure he's alive?
I'm alive, and I'm
he's just letting
to this, and I'm seeing that Mark is not answering.
I want you to get a mirror.
Yeah, but Mark is not answering your question at all, unfortunately.
What do you mean I'm not answering his? I'm not answering something.
He asked you what a charter school is. It's a simple question.
And then he started talking. About. I did tell him.
No, you did not.
I told him what the difference is. Yes, I did. Some charter school. I told him some charter schools are under the auspices of the.
You're talking about the union, non-union. What is a charter school?
Charter schools get to select their students. Very simple. In a public school setting, anybody could show up and come. In a charter school, you have to be invited. It's almost like a private school within the city. That's what a charter school is.
It's a school within the school? I mean,
no, it's a school. It's almost like a private school within the city, okay, that you are not directly paying for because it gets state and federal subsidies, okay? That's what it is. And you know what? When you went to parochial school, and if you acted up, the threat that the dean or the sister or the brother would tell your parents is, you know, keep your money, send them to a public school. Half the time, the parents didn't want to send them to a public school because they knew what the public schools were like. Same thing with a charter school, all right? I'm not saying there aren't their general fair share of screw-ups, you know, but the bottom line is they can decide whether or not you have the right to stay in the school or whether you are told to leave, all right?
Thank you. I'm trying to digest what you're saying. I grew up in a public school, and
all of us did.
I've kids go in Catholic school, so I'm trying to digest what you're saying. I see the differences in both. You know, this charter school stuff is really new to me.
Well, to answer your question, to answer your question before, there are charter schools that are inside another school, which you're asking before. They're considered a separate school, but they are within a school. Am I right?
Yeah, they're within. No, you see, you're explaining it wrong, though, because somebody would think it's a school. It's a school within a school, and it's not. No, it's an empty school building that's rented out by the charter company themselves, and they open up a school. All right? What de Blasio is saying is that these buildings are public buildings, and they have no right to have a charter school in there, okay? But meanwhile, the buildings are standing vacant, all right? Now, the charter school pays rent to the city. It's not like they get it for nothing, all right? But it's not a school within a school. When you talk about a school within a school, it's like having a mini school inside your regular school where you may have...
I've heard of charter schools that rent part of a regular school.
What'd you say?
I've heard of charter schools that will rent a part of a building that's a school. In other words, they'll rent one floor of a normal school, and make it a charter school?
Well, most of the time they go for the empty building, okay? Because, it's difficult when you have public school kids going to school with, in effect, almost private school kids, all right? Even if they're on a separate floor, all right?
Well, Mark, is it eliminating charter schools? I mean, look, I really am lost on this charter school thing, living on Long Island. I never heard this before till the city stuff came in about what the Blasio. But is a charter school thing, is that a good thing? Get rid of them or keep them?
Well, obviously unions don't want them, okay? But many parents want to give their children an alternative to a public education at very little cost to them. They can't afford private school. Now, private schools, I mean, I could name you half a dozen private schools up in New England and up in upstate New York and Connecticut where it costs $40,000 a year to send your kid to school. Now, those are, schools where the child boards, all right? They don't travel home. It's run pretty much almost like a college, okay? They have classes on Saturday. They have classes sometimes late into the day. Sometimes they'll even have an evening class, okay? They get to do a lot of different things that ordinarily would not be done in a public school setting, but you're paying for these things, I know this because in my junior high school, I used to work with the guidance counselor. A lot of my, the old SP kids used to take tests to get into these schools, and I used to send some of them to these schools. So I know what I'm talking about. In fact, I used to go to Columbia. Columbia was where they used to have their interviews. And a couple of times I went to Columbia on a Saturday, my own time, and I would interview kids from across the city, okay, as to, why you want to go to this school and everything. They give you, questions to ask, and you take notes. And then you meet with admissions officers, and you compare notes,
Wow.
So, I mean, I know what I'm talking about.
I would love to debate you guys on charter. I'm talking something I don't know about. So if you guys are listening out there.
Mark, I have a question, though, about charter schools.
Yeah.
Are you opposed to them?
Yep.
Why?
Money?
Well, compare city schools and Long Island schools. Long Island schools are public schools. They're like the public schools in the city. Now, granted, they may not have all of the urban problems that urban schools tend to have, all right? But, people are paying top dollar out here, and everybody wants to live in a certain neighborhood. The first thing they do when they're going to buy a house is they check out the school system, because if they have kids or if they're going to have kids, they want to make sure their kids are going to be going to a good school district. Okay?
Mark, hold on. You got to educate me here, please. Talk to me like I'm 3 years old. I'm from Long Island, born and raised. So my kid, tell me about charter school. So my kid goes to just whatever. Let's say Hicksville. Is there such a thing as charter school in there? I don't understand.
No, what you have is every town has their own high school. And depending upon the size of the town, determines whether there's more than one high school. Valley Stream has 3 high schools, right? South, North, and Central. Okay?
So where's the charter part come in there? Help me here. I never heard this before. I'm living on Long Island, born and raised.
That's because charter schools basically are in the inner city. They're within city limits.
That's why I don't know about them.
Exactly. Okay?
But
when they talk city schools, they're talking primarily about, now, take Buffalo. Buffalo is a big city in upstate New York.
Okay.
They have charter schools there. Rochester, they have charter schools there.
But
so they have the same problem that New York City schools have in dealing with the charter schools.
Okay,
again, you haven't explained Why are you opposed to them, though?
Order, you have to pay, a parent has to pay extra to, I guess, extra special services for a kid to go to school?
You know what? Why am I opposed to it? Very simple.
No, what is it though? Charge you?
No, he's bothering me, asking me why am I opposed to it. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm opposed to it because, you know, you're living in the city. If your child is not bright enough to get into one of the better high schools in the city, and now you're talking about schools like Stuyvesant, Tech, Bronx School of Science, Performing Arts, which is now for Frank Sinatra, whatever it is, in Astoria, okay, and other schools. If your kid isn't bright enough to get into one of the better high schools, then he goes to the local high school, Springfield Ardens, the old Andrew Jackson, okay, Thomas Jefferson, Samuel J. Tilden, all right, Van Buren in Queens. These schools all have their problems. They have their gangs, all right? Brooklyn Tech was basically downtown Brooklyn in the ghetto, all right? But the building itself drew students, very bright students, from all the 5 boroughs of the city. There were no gangs in these schools, you know? You didn't have to worry about getting ripped off for your lunch money. Things like that, okay?
I'm trying to look. I'm from Long Island, so I don't know. Charter school is for, like, special ed, or slow, where you're just trying to protect...
Supposedly, according to Eva Moskowitz, who's in charge of charter schools are supposed to accept a certain number of special needs students, okay? But the bottom line is, if you do the statistics, they still have the right to accept who they want to accept and reject who they want to reject, unless they have a lottery system.
Mark,
okay?
I'm sorry. You understand? I'm from Long Island. Is it about slow?
And I'm telling you, this has nothing to do with Long Island.
I know that. That's what I don't understand. Is it about slow students learning, not be able to learn, or the special kids, or they just don't get bothered, bullied? And that's these charter schools? I don't know. I'm asking you what a charter school means.
No, it's charter schools. First of all, they tend to write their own curriculum. They have their own standards. Like Eva Moskowitz said, you know, they're supposed to accept a certain number of, you know, students who are learning disabled. Okay. So that they run the gamut from the very bright to those that really need the extra help, okay? Parents are encouraged to come to the school after school and on a Saturday and help out, and they get to know the teachers in a different light, just like a private school, like I was telling you about, okay?
Right. Now,
as much as they would like to do this, they don't do this in the city. Now, I taught in Harlem, all right, and I taught in East New York. On open school night, you know how many parents we would get? 5, if you're lucky, because nobody comes out at night in those neighborhoods.
I wouldn't.
All right. Well, okay, you know. So the bottom line is, you talk about a charter school, everybody comes out. It's like a full auditorium. They have more than enough volunteers because the parents know that the kids are getting a great education and they don't want to see it destroyed. And also, they find, which is true, kids learn better when their parents are actively involved. Okay? I remember I used to have lunch with the school-based support team, which was a social worker, a psychologist, and an educational evaluator. We used to schmooze and have lunch together, okay, sometimes. And my boys, and I'm not embarrassed at all, my boys had learning disabilities, okay? And many a time I would come into school a little bit later because my wife and I would have a meeting with the, quote, committee early in the morning, okay, based upon, you know, the special needs for our children, for my sons, okay? They told me because I'm talking about the school-based support team, the psychologist, the social worker, and the educational evaluator, that they would kill to have parents like my wife and myself who were so involved with their kids. And I put all this on Ellen's shoulders because basically she was there more than me. There's a limit to how many times I could come in late, okay? But if it was after school, I made sure to make the appointment, but the point of the meeting. But the point is, they used to schedule meetings with parents and nobody would show up. Nobody.
Well,
all right? How could you decide what's best for the kid if nobody shows up? In a charter school setting, the parents are there. Okay, they make it their business. All right? It's just one of the differences.
Okay.
You're educating me here.
So everything you're telling me about charter schools seems positive.
Well, who's paying for it, though, Felix? Is it something extra the old taxpayers have to pay for, or
you know who's paying for it? The taxpayers. The taxpayers whose children don't go to those schools, because it all comes out of educational funding that is granted by the state and the federal government. Okay. Out here in Massapequa, in Oceanside, in Hewlett, okay, in Valley Stream, your money pays for your schools. It goes directly to your school tax.
Tell you that.
What?
I mean, obviously, I'm going to tell you that our school tax is so high. It's like $12,000.
Well, you know something?
School tax.
I have news for you. I hear both sides of this story, and I'll tell you what it is. On the one hand, you have senior citizens who say, I no longer have kids going to school.
Right.
Why do I have to pay high school taxes? And I'll tell you why. Because when the time comes for you to sell your house, okay, if the state grants that senior citizens no longer have to pay school taxes, the burden is placed upon the shoulders of other families.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
When you want to sell your house, if the rating of your school district goes down, all right, it's going to be harder for you to sell your house and get your price. All right. One of the biggest selling factors, like I said before, in buying a house, is the school district. Because, all the cliches, the kids of the future, you want to make sure they're well prepared, okay? And there's a difference between districts who can afford to pay $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 in school taxes, and then the poorer districts, unfortunately, who can only pay $4,000 in school taxes, which is still a lot when you think about what is taken out of, the wage of the city taxes that goes toward education within, let's say, just the 5 boroughs. I'm talking about inner city. And every state has inner city schools, okay?
I understand that, everyone pays for, everyone pays for each other, but there's exodus on Long Island because it's so expensive, Long Island. And it's like, my parents are a great example. Good exodus. They pay the school tax. They paid $60,000 a year. You know what? Now taxes went up, milk went up, and donuts went up, coffee went up. They're like, I'm out of here. So,
well, that's why a lot of people who retire from New York go someplace where the taxes are much lower because, number one, if your taxes are that much lower, okay, think about it. If you're no longer paying $13,000 a year in school taxes, but you move to a community, a senior citizen community, where your taxes are $6,000 a year, you're saving $9,000 in school taxes alone. That's money in your pocket. That's money that you could spend on a vacation, okay, on your health, hopefully not, But, I mean, New York is a very expensive state to live. California is a very expensive state to live.
I know. Look, I'm living through it. My parents are moving, and, I understand why. I don't want to see them go, and I understand why. They're done. They paid their school taxes. They paid for my sister and I to live. They paid our college and whatnot. And, they're like, why? Everything goes up. Their salary stays the same. And, the Obama, it's like the same thing as Obama scare. Sorry, Obama, but it's Obama scare. that he was hoping for the younger generation, to pay for the
Well, look, the only thing I want to say about, affordable health care is the bottom line is the more people you have registered, okay,
right,
the less the premiums will be. Now, you could already see that he's already postponed for a year or two the time that everybody has to, sign up for it. What he's hoping for is that more and more people will be convinced to sign up,
right,
or that those people who are 25, in a couple of years they become 27, all right, or those who are 28 become 30, and let's say they're married and they have a family, they find they need insurance, okay? So if their company doesn't offer them a policy, they have to go shopping for one.
Well, the problem with Mark, you give a great example. The company is all, Felix would tell you, the companies are all cutting back.
Well, that's it. Where you used to have companies give you major medical,
right,
okay, or even pay for part of it, many of them now can't afford to pay for anything. So
right,
when you're hired, you're told medical is on you.
Right. You're right. Exactly. It's like, okay, I'll work, but normally as I grew up and as you grew up, you work for a job, you get health insurance. It's like given. Okay, sign the paperwork, you start whatever 40 hours a week, and
it was always that way in a union shop, but in private industry, it was always the company paid for medical. It was very rare. It was very rare that you had to pay a little bit.
Right.
Okay.
Unions one thing. Even the private sector, and they covered insurance. It wasn't even, it was given. Now it's like, okay, we not only not covering half, you pay the whole bill.
Yep. Yeah.
It's
so
sad
how is
that
Obamacare helping anybody?
I don't understand why the stock market is doing so well. I think the economy is doing well.
You want to know? You know why? Because the stock market is doing well for a very few people. Those people who, when Felix tells his story about his cousin, that's the perfect example. He doesn't care for Obama, but the man's making him a lot of money. Why? Because the market has doubled since he has taken over. So if you could afford, when stocks were selling at 70, when the market was reading 7,500, and you had money to invest, that was the time to invest. Okay? Now the market is 15,000, 16,000. You've more than doubled your investment. You can get out now and never have to work another day in your life.
Right.
Okay, just want to say,
but it's not helping. It's not helping the ordinary guy on the street.
Okay,
right.
hold
Exactly.
on, guys. Yo, quiet, everybody. For the people on for the people on Blog Talk Radio, we will be disconnected within the next 2 minutes. If you want to continue listening
guys,
to this,
good night.
hold on, no, listen to me. Nobody wants to listen. If anybody wants to continue listening, or the people that are on Spreaker, we will be continuing on till we get done with the show. So everybody on Blog Talk Radio will say good night now, even though we're going to continue broadcasting, and you will be hearing.
Oh, gee, you know what that sounds like, Felix?
Yes.
That sounds like the difference. That sounds like. That sounds like.
I'm telling you, there's a big gap.
That sounds like the difference between charter schools and public schools.
Right. It's a rich or a poor. That's a public.
Blog Talk Radio is saying goodbye to us, but Spreaker will continue.
Exactly.
I don't know if I ever talk to you guys.
I rest my case.
I'll talk to you guys later.
Hey, listen, Mark. I'm going to tell you once again. You have given
90 seconds.
You have given, as far as I'm concerned, you have given no case at all as to why charter schools are no good. You haven't explained.
Thank you, Felix. I agree with. I'm sorry, Dr. Mark. I agree.
Well, you have to understand. I'm talking as a union person. I was a union worker. Okay, that's why.
But we're not union anymore. We're talking about better for everybody.
What do you mean we're not union?
60
what do you mean we're
seconds.
Not union anymore? I just finished saying that's why governors are trying to do away with teaching unions. They're trying to put them out of business so that everybody becomes a contract worker. Don't you understand that?
Yeah, I understand that. What I'm talking about is what is better for the students, to leave the charter schools open or close them.
Well, you asked for my opinion, and we all know that opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. My opinion is that, you pay for what you get, all right? If you're living within the city, you can't possibly have a charter school that's run almost like a private school, and it's by
10
lottery,
seconds.
okay, where you get to choose randomly, of course, who's going to come to your school. Because you know that as soon as these charter schools get somebody who's not towing the line, they show them the door and say, go to your local school. And don't think it doesn't happen.
I'm not saying it doesn't,
Just
but
like,
for those, at least for those students that make the lottery or get chosen, they have a chance of getting a good education.
well, why can't you, hey, listen, why can't you work hard in your public school and get the same chance?
Guess what? You taught in public schools. Why couldn't they do it?
Well, because you have other things that charter schools don't have. Many cases, you don't have discipline problems. You don't have gangs, okay?
So
Is a separate? Mark, is it a separate building or within the school?
No, it says
No, these are separate buildings.
Separate building. All right.
It's like a
That's
private.
not to say that when a charter's...
Can I bring up race? Is it like all white kids go to charter schools or just all mixed?
Well, that I can't say. I honestly can't. I do know that if you look at the protests up in Albany, okay, the majority of the faces were all minority. There were very few white faces that I could see, okay, because the bottom line is everybody assumes that white parents can afford to hire tutors, which is what many parents do when they have children who they feel are not getting all the help they need, even when they stay after school. So they pay money out of their own pockets directly, and they hire a tutor to come in and teach them. And that's how their kids get through. Okay?
All right. You're teaching me. I'm from Long Island, so I don't know the city system. I've never heard of charter school until recently. I don't know what the hell it is.
Well,
you got to understand one thing. Felix had a daughter who's very bright. Never had to worry about that. Okay? I know that if my kids went to a public school in the city, okay, they would have floundered. I know that for a fact.
And if they had
because I saw it.
And if they had a chance to go to a charter school, you'd have jumped at it.
Oh man, I wish I knew what you guys were talking about, because I public school I went to and I thought it was great. Best
well,
years of my
Felix,
life.
we lived in Forest Hills. If I could have afforded to stay in Forest Hills, they would have been going to a good school district. So I wasn't too worried about it.
Do you know a lot
but
of
if
people?
they lived in the inner city, you don't have much of a choice.
Do you know?
That's the only thing I'll agree with you on.
Do you know that a lot of the people in Forest Hills were actually sent to bad areas? They were not. What do you call it? They were not.
Oh, I know. They bus them in.
Yep.
They bus in kids. I know. Yeah. That's another thing entirely. Busing. Never got into busing, But that's neither here nor there. Time to hang up. Let's wrap it up.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
All right. You have.
All right, Dan. Have a good weekend.
I don't know where Dr. Don was. He's here somewhere. But anyway, nice talking to you guys.
He's probably at the UU church.
Probably.
All righty.
Talk to you.
Take care.
All right, Dan.
Okay.
Thanks and good night.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, and everybody still listening to us on...
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio.
Everybody on Spreaker, all I can say is have a good night. Thank you for listening. Until you can come back to us on Monday, we'll have another show. Good night.